All right, we're live here with Theo Goodman. This is the second hashtag art project interview. And yeah, we're excited to dive into some convos around rare pepes and Bitcoin, ETH, all the different blockchains that are available. Most excited to hear about Theos. We'll get there eventually, but first I just wanted to ask Theo to give a background of, his adventures in crypto land and more about what brought him to this point.
Hey, well, thanks a lot for having me and doing the podcast or video, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, that's kind of a long story about how I ended up where I am. I don't really know where to start with that exactly. I would say that I've always been into art and music. Everyone in my family does something related to photography or painting or whatever. So I think that was always pretty normal in my life. But I've never, I've done, played concerts, music for some projects I've been in with experimental music, industrial music, techno, all kinds of different things like that, or punk bands or whatever. But I've never really done music, quote, professionally in the sense that that was the only thing I earned money with. Sure, there was definitely a time, especially right when I moved to Europe, I guess you could consider that professional, but that was more like squatting and couch surfing and going around and getting whatever concerts you can. But back then it was way different. I mean, we had internet, of course, like early 2000s, we had internet, but it wasn't as easy to get gigs as it is now. It wasn't as linked together as things are now. So I've always been into music and art and stuff. And yeah, I've always been into politics, I guess. And from being into politics, you're into economics. And I guess from all of that, you're into language. So I guess when I discovered Bitcoin, it all really made a lot of sense pretty quickly. To make a long story short, let's see, I guess I've gone from, I still consider myself an anarchist, but a lot has changed because that's a pretty broad term in my opinion. So
how would you define it?
How would I define it? That's really good. I think it kind of like how some people defined think what libertarians are, but libertarians still want a government, a pretty centralized government, whereas an anarchist is more fine with everyone kind of doing, they could have, you can have your own community and all that stuff, but there's no real centralized government in that sense. I get anti-authoritarian. I don't know. I guess that it's kind of weird. I don't even know myself at this point, to be honest, because anti-authoritarian, what does that mean? I mean, that doesn't, it just means that you have the choice to do what you want. I mean, if you want to join, like I always make the joke, if you want to make a Stalinist blockchain, well, you can. You guys could voluntarily go over to those rules and you guys opted into those rules, and that's fine, or whatever other rules you want to do. But so actually it's a good question. I'm still trying to figure that out myself, honestly, and I haven't spent a whole lot of time in the last years worrying about what this or that political word means so much as let's say when I was 18 or 20 years old, where it was a real big topic. What are you? Are you a Marxist? Are you an anarchist? Are you I don't know, whatever are you? Are you a fascist or whatever? Back then it was really important. Now I don't really care as much, but that's still where I come from, and I don't think it ever really went away. So I think that definitely lends into the whole story about where, okay, then one thing led to another. I got into teaching English, mostly for businesses, and I got really into just as work, teaching English as a foreign language to businesses. So like business English or one-on-one training with people, stuff like that. And from there, I got into buying and selling domain names, actually. And but I was still teaching. It was just a side thing that I got into. But then I got into it more and more and more. Making websites, doing affiliate marketing, that kind of stuff too at the same time. But because I guess that kind of lent itself to the fact of when I was a teacher, I went the self-employed route. I wasn't, employed full time at a school, or I mean, I did do some experiments like working at private schools and stuff, but it just didn't work. Maybe I'm just not suitable as a normal employee. I think that I figured that out pretty early, and but I'm fine as a, a self-employed. It seemed to work fine. So, uh, okay, so all right. So then in the domain name forum, there's a big forum, it still exists, namepros.com. And I hang out there occasionally, not so much lately, but sometimes. And, they have what we would call a troll box. They have a chat room. And we all used to hang out there, especially like in the evenings, or whatever, when like Europeans and Americans are both have nighttime, and yeah, people in 2013, there was some big speculation bubbles in Bitcoin back then. I mean, even though it doesn't sound like a lot, it was, it went from like 30 to 100 or 30 to 300. And I don't know, we have to look back at the charts to get the exact numbers. But there was what happened was there was the Cyprus crisis where the banks and the Cyprus government basically needed money. To make a long story short, they basically need money. I don't know if they were technically bankrupt, but they were basically bankrupt. And well, it is maybe true that a lot of Russians or other people have bank accounts there, kind of like how people use Swiss bank accounts. It's kind of like where'd this money come from or whatever, because they have a lenient policy. So what Cyprus government did is just said, okay, if you have over 10,000 euros in your bank account, we're going to take 10% off the top. Thanks. And and everyone in Cyprus freaked out, and they had a bank run basically, and they ended up shutting down the banks. And through that, the Bitcoin price went up. Now, whether people were really using Bitcoin to get value in and out of Cyprus when the banks were closed, I don't know, and I kind of doubt it, but it doesn't matter. That's how markets work anyway. It's speculation that, hey, it could be used. If this continues, people could just use Bitcoin to get in and out value in and out of Cyprus. And so that led to a bubble, and that sparked my interest to read closer into it even more. I was already into gold and silver and all that stuff. I mean, I wouldn't call myself a hardcore gold bug, but I guess other people would. And so it really, at the beginning, I also thought, oh, this is just a scam. Like actually the first thing, like most people do, I searched Bitcoin mining because I wanted to know how to mine. And then I registered at a mining pool because I thought you just register at the mining pool and you mine. I had no idea how this works. And it said you need to, give your worker a name and a password. And I thought this is just some kind of multi-level marketing that my mining worker was part of, like my affiliate marketing. I don't know if anyone knows affiliate marketing. So like my downline kind of, but it wasn't like that either. I made a wallet and I went to a lot of faucets. Now faucets now are obsolete, but I was able to collect back then, just fooling around, chatting in the evening or whatever, I don't know, $1 to $5 a day sometimes in Bitcoin. What was back then, most time maybe one, at going to different faucets and just getting free Bitcoin, because they used to just give it out like these tiny little bits of Bitcoin. And then from there, so the more ironic thing, or just by chance, just how the world works, is that so I'm based here in Frankfurt, Germany, and I was at a co-working space. So I had my office, because I got tired of working at home, and this really cool co-working space opened in my neighborhood, actually, which is really cool, with a bunch of startups. That's called Decentrala Co-working, and I'm still there, so shout out to them. And just one day on the calendar, it said Bitcoin meetup. And I said to Jenny that was running it then, what is that? Are you, who is doing this? And she said, yeah, these guys I know, they want to do a meetup. And I said, yeah, I'm into Bitcoin too. I said, well, just come. So now I'm officially a co-founder of the Frankfurt Bitcoin meetup, but actually I didn't organize it at all. But we all joke, everyone that was there on that day, we all say we're co-founders. So it was like 8 or 10 people. And I guess that's kind of from then on, it was just, I guess, obsession pretty much at the beginning, or, you just get into it.
Yeah.
So
rabbit hole.
Yeah, down the rabbit hole.
Experience, I think. And it's really cool to hear you have a background in creativity and music and art. I
Yeah,
found that a lot of people interested in crypto come from that background. And it's not just in the hashtag art project Telegram,
right.
some kind of mindset that lends itself to picking up these concepts and getting excited about it too.
Yeah, sure. Well, creative people take risks.
Mm-hmm.
People. It's the creative people takes risks. A lot of us creative people complain about not making money or being poor or whatever, but it's also because most of those people took pretty big risks to do whatever it is they wanted, regardless if it made money from the get-go. So that is also a kind of risk. Maybe it's not always the best business decision, but that's okay. That's how I guess that's how a lot of creative people learn.
Well, yeah, it's not a rational pursuit. You're not
It's
trying to
yeah.
do anything in particular. You're just creating. So
Yeah. Yes.
you get
Yes.
comfortable
Exactly.
with that quickly if you
Yeah.
really love it. But yeah, I'd love to hear more about the Rare Pepe Foundation and how that got
Okay.
started. I guess
Mhm.
that
Well,
came
that
about
was.
after the
Oh
co-working
yeah.
and all that.
Oh yeah. Way after. So in the meantime, the music thing got a little bit more serious. I mean, I was the chairman of So we made in Frankfurt we made I guess you call it like a nonprofit society or whatever. So I was the chairman of that for a while, and at the same time trying to do all this Bitcoin stuff. And and then the Rare Pepe thing is like a spring forward, and I do want to talk about that just briefly, and I call it the nuclear winter. So you have to think. I talked about like getting into it and what happened. That's like the 2013 phase where it went from 100, it went to like from 100 to 1,000, and then you had the big. Everyone got in. A lot of people got a lot of exposure, and then Mount Gox happened, and it crashed. And then all of 2014, though, there was still a lot of interest in Bitcoin and altcoins and stuff. And then at the end of 2014, the price dumped from, well, I guess in 2014, the highest it was is 700 or 600 down to 170 one day. I mean, it stayed at between 200, 250, 300 for most of 2015. And that's the so-called nuclear winter. Now, of course, everyone says prices and everything. But what happened was, yeah, people left or they got disinterested. They either lost money or they just lost interest. There was less podcasts going on. There was less uh, news websites. It was the opposite of what's going on now, basically, where you had, I mean, there was still stuff going on. There was still new stuff going on sometimes, but in the grand scheme of things, everything slowed down. And then at the end of 2006, end of 2015, the price really went up again, and everything started getting a little nutty. And then 2016 was also a really big takeoff year. A lot of drama happened, but I'd have to have a whole nother podcast to explain all the crypto drama. You know how, 1 week of crypto is like 5 books of drama.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was full of 2016. That was all like that. And then in late 2016, so the funny story is that the reason I had to tell the story is because in 2015, in the summer, August was when Telegram really took off in crypto. So before then, there were some WhatsApp groups, there was whatever. So what everyone, not everyone, one of the main or the one where I was TeamSpeak. So there was TeamSpeak. TeamSpeak is kind of like Discord, basically, where you have voice chat. You have chat and you have voice chat, but voice was really important. And you had regulars, and it was mostly trading. But the price doesn't always move, so people start talking about Bitcoin in general, and it's just like a kind of like a 24/7 communication channel of talking about crypto, and it would get nuts. I had to like lock myself out of it for sometimes because you get on there for like so many hours at a time talking to people. So anyway, when Telegram started, then of course you have sticker packs, and everyone knows about sticker packs and gifts and so on. So then quickly people figured there were already some pre-installed, and people found a Pepe sticker pack, and then people figured out, oh, I'm going to make my own sticker packs. And then this guy Clay, I think like around the beginning of 2016, sometime he started making the first Pepe sticker packs with crypto themes. So, for example, you had the price chart crashing and then Pepe looking sad, or you had the price pumping and like Pepe with sunglasses on and all that. And everybody really loved those, and those went nuts. And the usage of those was crazy in all the channels. And I think without that, a lot of this stuff wouldn't happen. But I think it just happened how it happened. And he is not even interested or hasn't done any tokens or anything. He just does sticker packs, and he just keeps track of how many downloads he has, which is really nuts right now. You can keep track of that in Telegram. But yeah, and I think so that was really important. And then what happened was already in 2014 was a game called Spells of Genesis, and it has cards. It's kind of like Magic the Gathering, and you can't submit art; they make the art. But I already, was interested in it. I didn't have any, but I knew about it. I thought it was cool. I thought the art was cool. I talked about it on some other video podcast things before on World Crypto Network with some guys. We like look and we were analyzing their pictures and stuff. What does it mean? And so they had a Telegram channel. They were in the Telegram. They were in the mostly in the Counterparty Telegram channel, so XCP. And I was hanging out there around September, either sometime in the summer or in September 2016. And what happened is that every day Vanbex would come and post a new press release. So Vanbex still exists. Vanbex is a marketing company for crypto and blockchain. And they do anything from strategy to press releases and like all the other marketing companies. But they were doing really aggressive marketing for Spells of Genesis and Bit Crystals, which is the Pepe Cash of their area. Like that's their currency of their thing. And look, I just want to say I like Spells of Genesis, even though we're more making fun of Vanbex, because Vanbex would come every day and post his press release and like shilling, and we just made fun of it. And I have screenshots, and you can still go in the. I'm not sure if the Counterparty Telegram all exists because they had some other drama, like everything, but I have screenshots, and it's like, yeah, we should make Legends of Shitlords game. Can we like fork the Spells of Genesis game? And oh yeah, we could have like Vitalik card, and we could have like Litecoin card, and everyone was like, and we were all just talking bullshit actually, just like everybody does in Telegram, throwing ideas. And then Mike one day just post this thing, everybody, I made this card, the shitcoin card, and it has Pepe on there. And if the first 10 people that enter this room get a free one. And that's how the whole Rare Pepe thing started. That was it, basically. And then from there, everyone loved it. And all the people wanted to make a card too. And it just happened, basically. That's it.
That's the best way to start something, when there's just an organic demand for it. It's unstoppable.
Yeah, it just happened, and it got nuts. It got nuts. A lot of people wanted them, and then I think there was a few important things that happened to help it even get crazier. I don't know which one happened first, but I think the auction might have happened first. So just in the domain name forum, there used to be really controlled formal auctions done by the moderators for domain names in the chat, like an auction, like, okay, this domain and how much you want to bid and so on and so on. And I really liked those. So I said, one day I was like, okay, let's auction some Pepe cards in the chat right now, just spontaneously out of nowhere. No, it was not like no announcement, no nothing. I said, I have, I don't know what card I have, Kaiser Pepe. It's one of the first ones I made. So I have got a Kaiser Pepe. I'm auctioning it for 0.01 XCP. There was not even Pepe Cash back then, so didn't exist yet. So we're all trading for a counterparty token with XCP, which is on a bunch of exchanges. And so, do the auction, and it kind of worked. And actually, other people were like, I want to do auction. And so then I said, okay, what we're going to do. Other people started to do it too, like try to auction their own cards, and it even got too much. Just in like 24 hours or 48 hours, it just got too chaotic or too weird. So I said, okay. Look, I'm going to do an official auction at this time, and if you want to auction your card, PM me. And so we set it up, and we did an auction in the chat. It wasn't voice yet, we just did in the chat, you know, I said lot number 1 is this, you know, this is the price, going once, going twice, so on. And what's really funny is you can go in the Rare Pepe Trader chat right now, and if you like do searches like going once, going twice, you can like actually see the log still of the auctions. And it's really hilarious. The prices are really crazy too, because it wasn't worth anything very much back then. It was really low. And but everyone loved it and everyone thought it was great. Of course, people liked getting money for it because it was like unbelievable that we were actually, this was working, you know? And there were a few high ones, like someone had made like Pizza Pepe. There's like, that was like Homer Pepe kind of, where there's only one of it. And it was, I think, either UFO Pepe or Pizza Pepe were the first animated ones. And they were really low editions, and they got auctioned for, I don't know, decent amount. And we raised like, and then another auction we raised, I think we raised 150 or 200 XCP for the Counterparty Foundation. So like for the development of Counterparty, which wasn't bad. I mean, it was a few $1,000s back then. You have to imagine Bitcoin was worth under 1,000 still around that time. Okay. So just to give perspective about a whole crypto market, that was still pretty okay. I mean, it was, I don't know, maybe it was like $500 or something. I don't know, just to get an idea Bitcoin was. And so that was pretty cool. And then I did some on voice too, but it just got too complicated, you know, doing that. So I think that really helped take it off. And another thing that happened was also a big shout out, ICO Calendar, who the guy from it used to also hang out a lot at in our chat, and ICOs were just starting to take off. It was really new. Well, it wasn't totally new, but it was just starting to take off in the sense they were actually getting money. He has a YouTube channel, and you can still find it. And they do really good. And they did an hour-long talk with me. And what was really good actually is one host was very challenging about everything. And I just sat there and explained to him how it worked for an hour with a straight face. And I don't know, I think that was also really important podcast to kind of explain things, how it works. Skrilla was there from really early on doing stuff. And then later on, he started his podcast. A lot of people started there. You know, the Archetype guys were around pretty early too. You know, a lot of guys were there. You know, they're doing a lot of different stuff. So, yeah, that's kind of all how it started, and it just got bigger and bigger. It had ups and downs too. The Rare Pepe Foundation. I mean, the foundation. I don't remember when I came up with that. I just came up with it one day. I just said, "Yeah, this is the Rare Pepe Foundation," and that's it. That's all it was. There was no big plan. It was just like everything else. I don't know if I made it up on that interview or before, but it was around that time, because I think they just said, "Theo, how does it work?" And I said, "Well, you submit your artwork to the Rare Pepe Foundation, and then if it's dank enough, then they approve it." And that was the basic concept, you know. And since then, and then it just stuck basically. You know, so I don't know if everyone knows, but there used to be something called the Bitcoin Foundation, and it had also, and so see what I mean? They're not even around, and the Rare Pepe Foundation isn't either. So I guess so if you ever call yourself foundation in crypto, you're going to have a time when you come to an end. The Counterparty Foundation doesn't exist either, another victim of the foundation curse. Yeah, anyway, so the Rare Pepe, of course, it's naming it Rare Pepe Foundation, was kind of making fun of the Bitcoin Foundation in a way, because they always had some problems. I could get into all that drama too, but yeah, it was also kind of a ironic critique on them. So the whole thing started as an ironic critique on the marketing of Spells of Genesis and the Bitcoin Foundation in a weird way, indirectly.
I remember the Spells of Genesis presentation from the Rare Digital Art Festival.
Yeah.
And yeah, those guys, like, the game looked amazing. The art is incredible.
It is.
I remember there was it's like a chain of physical blocks that's being conjured by this magician. And it's like the stock photo of every Medium post and tweet out there for Bitcoin.
Yes.
Yeah.
I brought it up. You know what that is? That's the Satoshi card. So yeah, that magic guy. That's in their game. I think that's Satoshi. And that card is worth a whole bunch. I don't know how much, but or it's pretty limited or whatever. But it was trading way before. So, but also before that, I also want to give I'm going to miss something. So whatever, just comment below and tell me I'm totally wrong, please. Because I will be totally wrong on something, I'm sure. So, but there were before Pepe, there already were these, and they still exist, but they're just not active. There's like this one, like Spells of Genesis card addicts, or I don't know what, you know what I mean? Like rooms where they're trading. And honestly, the Pepe bot in the Pepe chat channel, where you press the button, that the first one was a Spells of Genesis bot in their channel. So that whole idea, the guy that programmed that was a Spells of Genesis guy, and he just adapted his bot to the Pepe's because he was into it too then. You see what I mean? So they already kind of laid the basics for a lot of things, how that could work. You know what I mean? And we just kind of took up on it. Also, you have to say counterparty, whatever you think of whatever platform, doesn't matter. There already was something called Indie Wallet, which exists. And then it was a wallet for mobile phones, Android, I think maybe Macintosh devices. And what you could do, though, the way that you can make a token, you could already assign a picture to it so that in the app it already has this, even though it was really tiny, at least you could see that you had a picture. You see what I mean? So there was already software. We didn't have to even make the software. There was already a basic wallet ready to go. So just because of that infrastructure, that also made it possible. It was also important, I think.
Well, yeah, Counterparty is one of the coolest projects out there. And yeah, I think it makes it super easy. And I mean, the accessibility of it is the most important factor, because artists aren't always going to know how to navigate the technology.
Yeah, I think at this point it's also kind of it's kind of like art. It's kind of subjective. I mean, there's so many platforms, there's so many blockchains or whatever, and it's also just like, okay, what one's technically better? What one should I use technically? They're all have technical merit to a point. So it's kind of like between 98 and 99%. It's not a whole lot of difference. You see what I mean? So it gets down, and what I see is that it's just subjective, whatever the people feel good about. And I agree, it's totally like the whole Pepe thing, it kind of fit rare to be on Bitcoin. Of course, rare things are on Bitcoin. That makes total sense. So maybe other things don't fit on it. I can totally see that. But I think it's also technical, definitely, but I think technical is more about understanding what is going on and more about what could go really wrong. And the whole thing about what one people use is pretty much subjective. I don't think it's based on so much on technicalities. Ease of use is subjective too, because some people, they think, oh, that's just, I know it, so it's easy. You see what I mean? So it's kind of hard to,
and it depends on the use case.
It depends on the use case, etc. So that's fine. I'm not saying it's bad.
Tokenizing rare digital art, I think there's a lot of miscommunication, misinterpretation, misinformation.
So that's the thing. Okay, so I want to tell another funny story.
Yes, please.
From the old times, back at the dinosaurs, was when one of the first things that happened is there was the Bitcoin talk thread for rare Pepes with the shitcoin card and the Gox card. So you had the Gox card has a picture of Satoshi on it, our Satoshi, and it's also kind of mocking the Spells of Genesis Satoshi in a way. You see what I mean? So, but also respect to them. I don't think nobody dislikes them. It was just kind of of course we had to do that. It's kind of funny anyway. So right away, somebody in that thread posted, they made one Carpellus card. So Carpellus was the guy that ran Mount Gox, for anyone. You have to go back and find out who he is. Made Carpellus card and said, yeah, buy Carpellus card. Here is where you buy it on the DEX and so on. This is the name of the asset. And then so basically we had our first, we called it fake rare, that was not like, they didn't ask, or I don't know what, you see what I mean? We also had to decide what the hell that was, but that wasn't submitted through the platform. There was not a real formal platform, but there was definitely an informal one in the chat. And the chat had probably 50 people or less. So it wasn't like hard to do or anything, you know. There were no big authoritarian structures yet. And it wasn't really trading for a lot of money either. And people were already trying to cheat it as one of the first things. So it definitely was not a nuclear situation where, you know, we had to ring the alarm or something, but it was definitely interesting to see right away you had people trying to test the boundaries of what's real, what is the real one. And I think it's a good question. It's a good question. What's the real one?
Fake rares, that's for sure.
That's right. Fake rares. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Learn the difference between rares and fake rares only at Repepe University.
Can you teach me about dank too? Was that
dank? I mean, that was always a term. I mean, there was a discussion in New York at the thing about what's the word dank and all that. It goes with Pepe. Pepe's green. Dank comes from, you know, weed being dank weed. So that makes sense too. And, you know, dank is good. Yeah.
I always thought it meant like tasty, like you have like dank sandwich or something.
That could work. That could work. I mean, smelly though, because dank does mean like an attic that is dank, and weed that has a strong smell would be dank in that sense. Yeah, you see what I mean?
That's loud.
Yes, exactly. So I'm not sure a dank sandwich. I mean, why not at this point?
I don't know.
So, I think that's it. I mean, we just said it a lot. It just has a, you know,
good word.
It's a good word, yeah.
Well, that's very cool. I'm very interested in the, you know, foundation curse. I'm trying to avoid that myself.
Yeah.
But, you know, the idea of anti-authoritarian governance is sort of a paradox, right? So
it is. I think it's more about what I was saying, opt-in. So but that's my experience in activism or living on kind of communes or whatever, that kind of thing, like a long time ago. I mean, it's not like that. There's still a government. It's just different. You know, it's just localized. And there's still people that try to be the alpha guy, or people that try to, you know, usurp power. And you have all that too. It's just a different level of it. And maybe it's more transparent, or maybe it's more personal, or it's more localized. So maybe that's better. But you know, you still have those structures. So I think it's just it's okay to. So it's when art. So whenever I mean, as far as art, I'm more like, no, this is my art, and I'll just do it how I want. I don't care what you say. And if it's my project as a curator, it's my event. Let's say I have a music event and it's once a month. I'm not gonna like say, well, I mean, it's just my style. You could do this, but I would never do it because it's just not in my. It's just not how I would do it, because I think it would just be chaos, and that's not how I want. I want to have full quality control. So I would never say, vote on the next band or the next project to play at my event this month. I would just say, this is the event. If you like it, great. If you don't show up. It's going to be good. Thank you. You know, and but that's just my style. You could also do a voting one. You see what I mean? So that's how I think how the art, a lot of the
process. You're curating and also making the event happen. So you are sort of a creator as well as a curator.
Yes, exactly. So I think that is part of it too. And you know, people want to get a lot. You know, people say, I want to get, you know, take power away from the galleries. I want to take power away from curators. And I think that I know that too. And I think that was part of the gag, or is part of the gag. And now it has to be kind of redefined of why we said we're curators. Because we know curators take themselves really seriously and are a lot of times assholes. And like, I used to like to always put on my flyer, curator is present. But it's a music event. But you know what I mean? But because people in music started doing it too. They used to say, oh, I'm the curator of this event. You know what I mean? It's just bands playing. You know what I? But you see what I mean? And they just take themselves way too serious. They say, "Who are you?" Well, I'm the curator of this and that. Like, dude, give me a break, you know. So it just kind of became a thing to use that word, and I think some people are taking it as people want to be that power, you know, like a, I don't know, like an unfair power or something like that. But that's not really it. I think it's like what you said, that that's just a creative position, part of a platform or an event or whatever. And that's fine. That's, I think that we need, even with decentralized tools, you're gonna need, you're definitely gonna need that creative input too, you know, because people that make art maybe don't feel like organizing platforms, or you know what I mean? They're busy doing their own shit, you know. So that's fine. We need all kinds of people, and that's just another part, you know, another part of the puzzle, I think, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think we had a conversation on the Art Project Telegram about the difference between curators and creators, and
Sure.
thinking about, you know, the creative process of a curator, and you know, I think it's important to give power to the creators, not necessarily the curators. But if you are a creative curator, then you should have the power. It's kind of the context that's most important.
Well, I think we should look at it also like a DJ. You know,
Yeah.
a DJ doesn't produce any music, and right now we have some really stupid DJs that are just superstars, and they just do auto mixing and jump up and down and have bright lights, but they're the stars.
Yeah.
So how can we, you know, how can you, you know, make that better in the sense that they play better music? Well, you just have to make really good music, and there's going to be DJs that will play that, and they'll do really good mixes based on creative merit and or artistic merit or whatever, and not based on, you know, if they can get 1 million a year for their tours instead of 1.2 million, or which I don't care. If you want to get money, great, but you see what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
you know, I think that the creators want to be able to make stuff that's good and get it out there. So you need the DJs, or you need the curators, or you need whatever platforms and all that stuff, or people just talking about it like us, just rambling on. You need that too, because that's all part of it.
Well, I believe everyone is a creator, and everyone's got their own brand and distribution channel attached to that. So it's becoming more and more flat across the world for artists to share their work, and it's almost more meritocratic in a way, which is good. But there's plenty of, you know, reinforcing kind of like echo chambers. People get wrapped up in their own minds, and you know, got to pop those content bubbles somehow. And DJs do that. You know, you're listening to a DJ you like, they play something you haven't heard before. It's like, oh wow, I need to go check out that artist. That's how recommendations and discovery happen.
Yeah.
Very necessary.
That's why you got to do drive-by shit posting.
Yeah.
So drive-by shit posting is my new concept. Actually, it just started because I get really tired of Facebook. So I used to just open it once a day and then post something really I knew would annoy a lot of people, and then I would close it. And so I used to call that drive-by shit posting. But I think you can, but that's just kind of like, you just like, you know, put an interesting picture or a controversial picture or statement, and then you're not even there to answer, to respond, which is annoying. But I mean, maybe that could spark some kind of interesting discussion sometimes, you know? So sometimes I think that's appropriate.
Yeah, you got to stir it up a little bit. There's definitely a wrong way to do that, but
yeah. So I also think that too, you know, if anyone, and I think is that we're all part, it sounds kind of like woo woo or something, but we're all part of the same tribe, or I don't know whose we are right now, but I guess like the crypto art people pretty much. It's still pretty small. So I would still say we still pretty small, are all part of the same tribe. And if we fight each other or battle each other, that's good, as long as we don't do it to break each other's will. You see what I mean? So if I'm able to discuss with you or challenge you strongly, well, that would mean that we respect each other. You see what I mean? And in someone doing that, but someone's doing that to try to break someone, like break their person, then that's not acceptable. Totally. And I don't think people are trying to do that, but sometimes you get, miscommunication or whatever, So, but I think that whenever people are discussing or battling or competing, people are going to have the same ideas, want to do the same thing. And I have art and you have art and I have a platform, you have a platform, it's going to happen. That's good, but as long as we don't try to break the other person, either, personal, it doesn't have to be personal attacks. It can be, but it could be other things too, that, and if we do that like that, then the whole tribe will be stronger.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds very, hippie or whatever, but I think it's true.
Yeah,
I think that's a good way to think of it, I think.
Yeah, we need criticism to drive progress. It's
yes,
why
yes.
people enjoy art is thinking about it critically. I think it definitely has greater meaning to everyone than their first impression, of course. But I think we have to be able to challenge each other and do so in the right way. Without attacking. But you got to attack, but just at the right target.
Sure. Yes, exactly. When you don't kick a guy in the face that's on the ground. You know what I mean? So you see what I mean? Like, so destroy, kill. Yeah, right. Exactly. Live on to the next day. Nobody goes to the hospital,
and then
right,
punch him again or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, right. Something like that. But you know what I think you know what I mean. I think it should be it's also hard to discuss. How do we discuss, or do we even need to talk about that? I think that's an important topic. I've seen
more challenging these days because, it's easier to have the conversation. It's harder to do it the right way because
it's really
not
hard.
always face to face. Sometimes you do a video call, but mostly it's chat rooms and comment threads and
that's what
nonsense.
That's what the conferences are for. Just to meet people. I mean, of course, everybody wants to go to the talk and hear the talk, but really the whole point is actually just to meet people face to face. I think, in my opinion, and that should be the main thing. And of course, you want to hear the talks and what everyone's saying, but I don't know. I think it's important to, that can help a lot to meet people, even if it's just sometimes, or do video calls or whatever.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to wrap it up here. I figured we'd just do like an hour, but
that's good. That's good. No, that's good. That's good.
In the last 15 minutes here, I wanted to dive into the differences, like your thoughts on Ethereum versus EOS versus Bitcoin. You can just rant and ramble however you want about that.
Sure. Well, I mean, I think so. I guess we will talk a little bit in the context of art stuff, but I mean, of course, I'm going to say Bitcoin's always the best and everything. No, I'm just joking. Look, it's old. It's true. It does not have as many features. You cannot, breed cats on it right now. You can do a lot though. You'd be surprised what you can do, mostly with Counterparty and the tokens and the decentralized exchange on there. I think you would be really surprised. And I think that people would be surprised what's going on with Lightning and how that could also help games and art stuff. So I'm going to do my best to go to there's a Lightning Network hackathon in Berlin this month. I'm going to do my best to go there, even though I don't consider myself a programmer. I can manage to do hack something together maybe. But I think people would be really surprised what is going on and what's possible with Bitcoin. But yeah, I get that people want to use other stuff. So then you have Ethereum. So why do the Bitcoin people not like Ethereum? Or what's the beef basically? The beef is mainly is the whole split that happened with Ethereum and Ethereum Classic. So that and how that went down. And it's kind of a long story that I don't know if I can explain everything now, but just to boil it down, can there be a kind of executive decision of a board maybe or something to say, now we're going to fork this chain because people I know are going to, be monetarily hurt otherwise. And I don't know about the other stuff, but that's the main thing. And
Yeah.
maybe the majority of the community did agree. I don't know. It's kind of hard to tell. But I think that's, I guess, from a purist point of view, as far as blockchain things, that didn't sit well with a lot of people.
Yeah.
And
Well, clearly not. The community definitely had a contentious disagreement because
it was contentious, definitely contentious, and there is more to it than that, because the so-called Robin Hood group controlled a whole bunch of Ethereum that was lost for a while, and that was just kind of like a so-called white hat hacker group. That's why they call themselves like the White Robin Hoods or something like that. I don't know. You can read all the history about that. But, they were buying and they were doing stuff with that Ethereum too. It gets all a little weird. Okay. So that's it. I mean, and the other thing that is weird is that people, Ethereum people back in the day, there was a big, so basically counterparty. So Vitalik used to be really into Bitcoin. You can go look at his really old writings for Bitcoin Magazine. Of course, he's really smart. And there before Counterparty was a thing called Mastercoin, which also was tokens, basically. And then it was called Omni. And I think that's what it's still called now. And it's still called Omni, and it's on Bitcoin as well. It's a different token system, but it's on Bitcoin. And he was kind of involved in that, or interested in that. And so it all comes from that whole stuff, like Counterparty and Omni and stuff. And Counterparty, so Ethereum used to go to conferences back in the day before it launched and say, oh, Litecoin, we can do that in 3 lines of code. Oh, Counterparty, we can do that in 3 lines of code. So you have to kind of get the history of, I mean, I guess you could call it shit talking that went on. You know what I mean? So everyone sees like, oh, it's the maximalists are just difficult people to deal with. There's a little bit of a longer story to it than that. So I think that's kind of difficult to give a whole context to that. But it's the network itself. There's a lot of bugs on Ethereum. You've seen it. You've seen the parity thing was crazy. That's still not solved. So parity multi-signature, there's still like funds that are kind of unsure what's going on with it. Different bugs, wallets being drained. A lot of things can go wrong because there's a lot of moving parts. And the contracts are user deployed. So the contracts are written by users and deployed, and that's different than how some of the Bitcoin, what are basically smart contracts, work on, like, for example, Counterparty, or if you do multi-signature in Bitcoin, or if you do end-lock time, which is another feature, or other things. It works in a slightly different way. Yes, it is more limiting, but it's definitely safer, because just imagine if you had a computer that's just running by itself and no one can stop it, what bad things you could do. So you see what I mean? So that's what it's like. So I'm not against experimenting with Ethereum. Look, and then the other thing though is then right now Ethereum's proof of work, they want to change to proof of stake. So you have a whole nother discussion about, is that okay? Is it possible? How you want to do it? What rules? Casper, blah, blah, blah. So I don't want to, I guess I've already gone pretty long on that. Because then you also have EOS coming in. So you have EOS, but EOS also has a history you have to understand, which is really funny because they all were kind of together, because EOS comes from Steemit, which comes from BitShares, and all of those are still alive. So BitShares from Dan, and when that first started, actually Dan that started BitShares is the guy that came up with the word smart contract, because he had basically a very similar vision as Vitalik. Okay, and even launched before BitShares launched before. You can also BitShares, you can do tokens. There's no reason why you can't do art tokens on it. There's a decentralized exchange. It has more complicated. I mean, you could kind of do those on Counterparty. Like they have like these systems to do BitUSD, which is kind of like a stable version of USD. It gets all kind of complicated with, doing financial derivatives and all this kind of stuff. I'm not going to try to explain that here about like shorting and all this stuff, but anyway, collateral and all this stuff. So you can do like really complicated stuff in BitShares. So BitShares and Ethereum were kind of like friends, I guess, let's say at the beginning. You know what I mean? Like they were on panels, they joked with each other, they threw ideas around sometimes. You know what I mean? They were kind of like friends.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's like EOS against Ethereum. Who's going to win? You know what I mean? So it's kind of weird. They have similar things they want to do. Maybe EOS is more elegant in some ways, but I'm not 100%. Nobody knows what's going to happen. It uses something called DPoS, which is what BitShares use, which is delegated proof of stake, which is not the same as just proof of stake, which is going to just like do the blow up your head meme for people that are not into it all. But I mean, basically, you're trading in DPoS. You're trading off. You have it's more like a government what we have in the real world, where you have groups of people that are basically publicly known and they get elected and are staking the reputation that they're going to be good actors in the network, instead of anonymous peer proof of work has anonymous or pseudonymous miners. You don't know 100% who they are, and they give the power. Whereas in DPoS, you have publicly known people, and they're basically vetting the reputation. They're going to do the thing they're supposed to do. So if you have art on Bitcoin or Ethereum right now, then proof of work is securing that those tokens don't go anywhere, basically. And on DPoS, it's groups of publicly known people that have been, that have a financial incentive to not be bad actors and do things like reverse transactions or other things. But EOS gets more complicated because, like in Ethereum, if there's a smart contract, you can't really, I mean, there's sometimes you can freeze them, but you can't really reverse it, or you can't really edit it as much as maybe some people would like, which some people wouldn't like it because that's weird if you can edit it, because why should you edit it if it's in a blockchain? There's different views on that, and depending on the use case. So in EOS, you can, but I mean, you would see that you're doing it, but that's supposed to be a feature. So I hope that gave a good.
Yeah, that was great. Appreciate you running through all of them. It's good to hear from someone who's been there from the days when they were friends.
Look, and I'm not, and yeah, I mean I think that's a cool story to understand, kind of give a perspective of. Yeah, they're really trying to solve they're very similar ideas. They're just different executions of very similar idea, and they really come from very similar places, which is very interesting. And I don't think people get that.
Yeah, and I don't think many people would know off the top of their head that EOS was, their token sale was on Ethereum, and it's almost
right.
like layer two scalability.
So there was some kind of beef about that. I think that it wasn't on BitShares. On the same hand, check this.
Dumping on Ethereum essentially.
Yes. Also, now they're going to do a big swap, right? They're going to swap somehow, technically, in a way. You have the Ethereum token, and you can swap it for an EOS token. Okay, but guess what they've done on a large scale? They've demonstrated how all the Ethereum projects could just move their token over to EOS as the first step. So that's how I look at it. I don't know if they thought of it like that, but when I was like, oh, no wonder you launch on ETH. Because then when you do the swap, you're showing everyone how you can swap over. Get it? So that's how I look at it. I don't know if that's true. We'll see if that happens. Who knows? Maybe Theos will swap over to EOS at some point. We don't know.
Yeah, that was me. My next question was,
yeah,
what is Theos?
Theos is a collectible card in the game Bitcoins Crops, bitcoins.com. Check it out. And it is more valuable than gold. It scales co-ops, and it's one of the most cherished assets in the game. It's like EOS, but it's just better. It's also turned into, for me, it's a kind of token of appreciation. So just just did 3 conferences in 2 weeks about, and met a lot of people, and I talked about Theos too. And I think that all right, so I'll tell a quick story again, because I know we told like a bunch of stories. So someone Jörg from Room 77 talked shortly about research he did about money a long time ago, and everyone knows about the island, and they use seashells for money, but there's like tons of seashells, and it's not limited. So how the hell does that work? And he explained what it is that on the island, if you help somebody, then the person gives you a seashell and you put it on your house. And whoever has the most seashells kind of has the highest standing in that society. You can only get a seashell on your house if you help somebody. And you can't cheat it because it's a small enough island. Everybody knows the story of each seashell, because when there's a new one, they're going to ask what happened, and they'll ask the people, did you help them or whatever. And so I think the Theos, it's a game collectible, but it's also maybe it's almost as valuable as a seashell. Who knows?
Well, that's a good way to explain it. I like the idea of the community, like streamlining the processes of the Bitcoins crop harvesting. I need to check out Bitcoins.
I think it's a really good game. It's a fun game. I think I really like it. And I like that they've introduced cards now, of course, because everyone wanted to have cards. And but that's cool, because you can see that you have a Lambo garage on your farm. You can show everybody. You need those things. And I think we need projects like this. Let's do projects like this first. And when they work really, really good, then we can connect blockchains to our cars and all that stuff. Wouldn't you like to have Bitcoins and CryptoKitties work really, really good before we connect blockchains to our cars and our houses and stuff?
Yeah, I think we're closer than most people would assume, maybe. But
yes,
yeah, I agree. We got to get it right, or otherwise, unstoppable.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah. We don't want to have parity bug when it's connected to my house control, even if it's just controlling my heating, or I don't even know why I need it, but people are already talking about that kind of stuff. So, it's connected to my car.
I killed my AC contract. No, I'm never going to have air conditioning again.
There you go. There you go. So, let's do fun things, but there are serious too. There are serious projects too. And let's test the limits with those. And I think, that already has shown a whole lot, So,
well, it is all an experiment. And,
yes,
as opposed to what I said just a minute ago, it is the early stages. We're in the first inning, and, there's a lot of, game to be played here. But
there's plenty of time.
But it's super fun, though.
It is
the place to be. I wouldn't want to be doing anything else. That's for sure. And learning from cool people like you, that's a huge part of.
Oh no, everybody learns from everyone. I've just been around, everyone, but there's people who've been around way longer. So it's not like, but yeah, you just have to, you'll learn. If you're new, you'll learn. Don't worry. Just read, do your own research, listen to podcasts. I know it takes a while. Make mistakes, do your wallet, send yourself around, try it out yourself. That's the only real way to do it. And then, I think from there you can learn a lot.
Very cool. Well, I guess we're about to wrap up here. Is there anything else you'd like to share with our audience?
Yeah, sure. I'll just do the big shill. So we're at the big shill part of the show. Thanks a lot for everyone for watching. This is Theo Goodman. Check me out on Twitter, TheoG__. Also, my medium is TheoG__. You can also check out some cool projects. For example, the RarePepeDirectory.com, RarePepeWallet.com, Bitcorns.com. So Bitcorns.com. That is a very cool one. And I will give a final shout out to the people I met on the weekend. Although it is not directly art related, I do think the whole thing is a kind of art performance in itself. That is beerchain.technology, Beercoin. Yes, to beer and beyond.
Nice. Well, thank you so much for joining me and sharing all your knowledge and insight. And if anyone watching has interest in being part of this. Let me know. You can find me on Twitter at JWAP, JWAUP. And most of all, keep creating and keep experimenting. Until next time, Theo, it's good to chat with you.
Thank you. Thank you much.
Peace.